Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. Well, these standalone guitar compositions are always super popular. They're so much fun to play, and it's a great way to practice and a great way to perform for other people what you've been learning. And so that's what we're going to be doing this week. It's a ragtime blues where you're going to be playing a lot of the lead by yourself, no jam track underneath you, targeting certain chord tones, playing arpeggios. It all sounds complicated, but this is not difficult stuff. These are basic chord shapes that you already know, and you'll see at the end of this that this is a lot easier than you might think. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second video and get the tablature and also access the on-screen tab viewer, you can get those things by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP348. Alright, so this is my favorite way of playing guitar. It's just playing a lead part without any accompaniment. Just grabbing a guitar and starting to work out a chord arrangement, basically is what you're doing by targeting notes from those chords, even though the chords aren't being played at all. It makes your lead sound much more sophisticated, and it's an awesome way to practice guitar. You don't have the safety net of a jam track or anything underneath you, so you have to be very intentional about the notes you're going to play. Now, this is a very simple way of doing this. This is not super complicated, but I kept it this way just to keep this simple so that by the end of this, hopefully this gives you a whole bunch of ideas for how you could be playing solo things like this by yourself, or these will help improve your leads when you're trying to improvise and sound a little more maybe jazzy or sophisticated as a lead player. Let me just mention this guitar. This is a new one for me. This is it's a Martin 1948 0021. And I was not looking for a 21. I was actually looking for a dreadnought. I was looking for like a D18 or a D28. And I've been looking for one of those for a while, but I just haven't found one that hits me. And I've played old ones, I've played pre-war ones, I've played like really expensive ones, and I don't know, they're just not the right fit for me yet. At least I haven't found one. But I came across this guy, and oh my gosh, I could not stop playing it. Just the tone of this thing and the way that it feels and the way that it vibrates, and it just felt right. Sometimes you find one and it's just the perfect fit. So this was at Carter Vintage in Nashville, and if you've never been to Carter Vintage, check them out. They've just reasonable prices and just an interesting collection of guitars, old vintage guitars and amps and stuff. So anyway, this one was overpriced, so it had probably been sitting there for a while. I knew it was overpriced, but it killed me because I went home and I kept thinking about it. I thought, well, trying to justify it, should I get it? I don't know, maybe. So anyway, I call them up and I make an offer, lowball an offer a little bit, and then this was a guy in consignment that was selling it and didn't want my offer, so we went back and forth for a few days. We ended up settling on a price, obviously, and so I think I still overpaid a little bit, but maybe, I don't know, it's just so good, it's probably, I could justify overpaying a little bit because it's that good. So anyway, that's what this is. It's a 21. So it does have Brazilian rosewood back and sides, and it's got some nicks on it. It's not in beautiful, perfect condition, but for a 1948 guitar, it's not bad. So you'll be seeing a lot of this one. I can't put it down. It's really good. Okay, so let's talk about the structure of this song. First, I'm going to call out the chords and go through the Nashville number system. If you're not into the number system, just ignore the numbers. But this will give us a framework, and then we'll get into all the specific notes. So we're playing this in the key of A. So the 1 chord is the A, and then we go to the 4 chord, which is the D. And we go back to the 1 chord, and we stay on the 1 chord for a while. Then the song goes back to the 4 chord, and then it goes to a diminished 7 chord. That's an A diminished 7 chord. And then we go back to the 1. Now here's a sidebar. Remember this. If you're playing a standard 1-4-5 blues and you're going from the 4 chord back to the 1 chord, which happens, so in this case it would be going from the D to the A, go ahead and throw in between that 4 and the 1, throw in that diminished 7 chord. It would be the diminished 7 of the 1 chord that you're about to go to. So in this case it would be the A diminished 7. But it just makes your playing sound a little more sophisticated. And when you are playing a lead part, you can see by targeting those notes out of that diminished chord, even though that chord wasn't there, it starts to sound more sophisticated. So if you're trying to play a little more jazzy or out of the box or whatever your idea of sophisticated means, that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so there's that diminished 7 chord. And then we go back to the 1 chord, and then we go to the 6th chord, which is a major 6, not a minor 6. So it's a F sharp major. And then we go to the 2 chord, which is the B, but that's a major 2. This is a standard chord format. I'm going to call this out as we get into the lesson. I'll explain this. Going from the major 2 to the 5, so that would be the B to the E, and then back to the 1. So that's the chords we're going to be playing over. And then the song repeats itself, and we go through a whole other cycle, which I'll go over in the second video. But let's get into this first lead thing. So the very first thing that happens is kind of like a Benny Goodman swing thing. It's like... It just has like a horn section sound to me. So what I'm doing, I'm starting by putting my middle finger on the 5th fret 3rd string, sliding up to the 6th fret, 5th fret 2nd string, and then I play the A7 bar chord. That's just your A major bar chord, take your pinky away, and then you got your A7. So you have, now what are these notes? Those are just notes, look at that. There's your A triad, they're the notes that are in that triad. Now we're going to do the same thing but over the 4 chord. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to the 4th fret 3rd string, sliding up to the 5th fret 3rd string, and then playing the 5th fret 2nd string. Behind that, it's just a bar there to do that. Super easy to play. And then we're going to play the D9 chord. Now why a D9 chord? I know some people will be thinking that or wondering that. Why D9? Why not a D7 chord or a D6 or a D13? Why a D9? Well, you can play any of those. That's the truth. It doesn't really matter. It's just whatever you want to do, but it makes sure it's from the D family. It could be any of those numbers, though. It could be a D9, a D6, or whatever. But I don't want to get into chord theory. We're going to save that for another lesson. Let's just stick to the lead stuff. So we have... And the way that I'm playing that D9, these 3 fingers are making up the D7 chord shape. So take that first position, D7, play it up here, so your middle finger is now on the 5th fret. And then take your pinky and play it on strings 1 and 2 on the 5th fret. That's a D9 chord. Really cool blues chord. You can slide into it. There's a lot of things we could talk about there. There's your 1. There's your 4. And then we go back to the 1, but I'm not going to play a chord this time. I'm going to play all these notes. Now where are they coming from? Well, we're targeting notes from the A chord family. So there's your A7, and then that would be like your A9, right? So they're coming from those places, so they're notes in like an A7 chord and A9 chord, but they're also just your major and minor pentatonic scales mixed. So this would be like if you took your A major pentatonic scale and you took your A minor pentatonic scale and you put them together, so you think of them as one scale instead of 2. That's kind of what this is. So when I'm going, that's major. So there's your pattern 2 major pentatonic scale. And there's your minor pentatonic scale. That note's in your major pentatonic scale. So you're blending the 2. I've got a lesson on that, which I did a long time ago, which is EP348. So you might want to check that out if you're interested in that topic. But let's get into the notes here. So it's 5th fret 3rd string, slide up to the 6th fret, 5th fret 2nd string, 8th fret 2nd string, and then put your middle finger on the 7th fret 1st string, 5th fret 1st string, and then we're going to do 8, 7, 5 on the 2nd string. So let's look at that. It goes, and that's just alternate picked with the right hand. Down, up, down, up. Okay, and then I went, and that's just A minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 down to A major pentatonic scale pattern 2, which is this note. So this is a hammer-on, pull-off, hammer-on. So it's that 8th fret 1st string, we go to the 7th fret 1st string, and then put your index finger on that 5th fret 1st string behind it so that you can go. So that's just a hammer-on to the 7th fret, pull-off, and then another hammer-on to the 7th fret 2nd string. So you have... What's a takeaway from this lick? Well, this is very, very useful when you're playing a blues lead, whether you're playing with a full band or playing by yourself. You know, I just think of, like, you know, I think of Albert King, I think of Eric Clapton, or even B.B. King. That's just so used, that little hammer-on pull-off, but it's in that major pentatonic as opposed to the minor pentatonic thing. Okay, so after that hammer-on, pull-off, hammer-on thing, I go back to the 5th fret 1st string, and then I played 7th fret, 5th fret on the 2nd string. So it goes, and that's the end of the lick. So that's what it looks like. Now that may be driving some of you crazy, but just practice that little part. Take it into the sound slice feature, and if you're a premium member, you have access to that. You can highlight that, loop it, you can slow down the playback, and just work that one part over and over again. That's an awesome lick. You could get a lot of mileage out of that. Okay, let's back up from the beginning and play up to that point. We have... Now we go to the 4 chords, back to the D9. It's just down, muted down, and then play it again. So it's... Now this is where the song goes to that A diminished 7 chord, and what I played was... Listen to that. Hear that? There's your A diminished 7 chord. And so really I'm just playing an arpeggio, an A diminished 7 arpeggio. So here's how I'm playing it. It's the 5th fret 3rd string, 8th fret 3rd string, and then 7th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 1st string. So it goes like this. Now there's a lot of value in that, in those 4 notes. If you're playing a lead now and you want to go into that diminished kind of feel, that diminish, you know, you think Robin Ford, he gets into the double diminished thing, but you can work it right into your minor pentatonic stuff, and all it takes is just 4 notes like that to take your playing into a whole different level of sophistication. And that's something I don't see a lot of guitar instructors talking about. They tend to go overboard, and they'll show you the entire double diminished scale, but they don't really put it in context. I'm giving you 4 notes that are just out of that A diminished 7 chord shape or arpeggio that you can work right away into your playing. You can also connect it to A minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. So that's what I do. So I think of, there's your pattern 1. Look at how that sort of connects and lives inside pattern 1. You can see that it's a nice little container for that. So anyway, after that it goes, so it's the 7th fret 1st string, 8th fret 1st string, back to the 7th fret, back to the 5th fret. So you have, practice that. Let me do it slower. Over and over again until you can do that one lick. And then I go, and you can hear just without a chord under it. By coming to that note, there's relief. The tension is released at that point. It's because that diminished chord is like a, you know, it's like a stomach that's in knots. It just sounds like it needs, it's a tension chord. And then to release it back to the 1, it's like so satisfying. So yeah. And I think I slid into that note. And so coming up to that note, that's the 3rd interval in your A chord. So you think of 1, 2, 3, that note. So that's what I'm doing there. So, and then back to the A note, which is the 5th fret 1st string. Okay. After that, I played. So let's do this, and then we'll back it up. So we have. So this is starting on the 4th fret 2nd string, and then coming up to the 7th fret 2nd string, back to the 5th fret 2nd string. 7th fret 3rd string, and then there's a hammer-on between the 5th fret 3rd string and the 6th fret. So where are these notes coming from? Especially that note. That seems like it's so out of anything of the norm there, and it sort of is, but this is something I learned a while ago, and this will be a nice little tip that you can use going forward to give you some ideas for playing lead. So if I look at the notes of, let's take that A chord, A major chord, and I look at the notes, just the individual notes. I'm playing them all with my index finger to highlight just those notes. Now if I play the note before that note, that's kind of cool, right? So that's something you can do when you're playing a lead. You can, if you want that kind of weird sound or what, I don't even know how to describe that, but you can work that in. And if you want to take it a step further, you can go, the note below it and then to the next note above it, which would be the note in that scale. So that's how that's working. So that gives you some other things that you can do to play around, and it's just targeting the notes out of the chord. Some other ideas for interesting things you can do off of those notes. So anyway, all of that was to say, that's where that came from. Let's back it up from the beginning and play up to that point. Okay, so after that, then I went, okay, so after that hammer on to the 6th fret 3rd string, there's the 5th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 2nd string, and then we're going to come up to the 9th fret 2nd string and walk it down chromatically, 9, 8, 7. What is this? Well, if I were to play that F, remember I told you we were going to play the major 6th chord, or that F sharp chord? Even without playing that chord, just by hitting that note, which is your F sharp note, it's already sort of, it's sort of hinting at that's where the song is going, even without playing the chord. Now, if you like the sound of that and you want to use that going forward, just remember where that is in relation to your one chord. So in this case, there's our A major chord. You can see my pinky is here on the 7th fret. That's the fret that I end up on. So if I were to do that over a G chord, it would look like that. So that's just one way to remember. I use that quite a bit if I'm going to do the 6 to the 2, back to the 5. I just kind of use that lick. Now, to get to the 2 chord, the major 2, which is your B chord, and what we're going to play is we're actually going to play a B9. So we're going to do... Now this is a very cool sound. And I want to say I got this from the Neck and Neck Chet Atkins Mark Knopfler album. I got this from somewhere, and somebody out there is going to know exactly where this is. But I love the sound of this, and really it's just a B. So there's your B chord, right? Those are the notes out of this. Now these notes are going to look very familiar, and that's because when we played the first little lead lick over the A, remember? Look at this. Same thing. We're doing it now over the B. Right? So it's the 8th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 2nd string, 10th fret 2nd string, and then let that ring out while you play the 9th fret 1st string. And that is a B, it's a B9 chord, if you look at it that way. And then I came down and went... Now, I don't know where I got this. I was just... well, I'll tell you where I came up with it, just noodling around. This is the benefit of sitting around the house with a guitar, just noodling and noodling. And I worked several different versions of this, but I ended up settling on... Just a cool sound. Okay, so I'm sliding on the 7th fret, 3rd string, and I'm barring there, so I'm going to play the 7th fret 3rd string, the 7th fret 2nd string, 8th fret 2nd string, and then all the way up to the 9th fret 2nd string. Now while that rings out, I let that ring finger collapse and play the 9th fret 1st string. And when you have this note ringing out along with this one, or these two, that's actually considered an E13 chord. So it's just your 5 chord. I could have played an E9, I could have played an E7, you know, I could have played just an E chord. You know, any of those would have been fine. I could have picked notes out of those chords, but I'm trying to stay in that sort of jazzy, out of the box kind of realm. So when I played the B9 chord, that just seemed like a natural fit. I don't know, that's probably the best way I can describe it. And then after that I came down and just hit strings 1 and 2 on the 5th fret. Instead of playing the full chord, I just played that double stop there. And then the song that would do a turnaround, play the E chord. And what I did, instead of just playing the E chord, I went like this. And walked up to that E note, which would be the 12th fret 1st string. So after I played that, I went up to the 9th fret, 10th fret, 11th fret, 12, and just walked it up. The right hand is just down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, that's where we are going to end this part 1 video. There's a lot of information we've already covered. I'm going to save the rest of it for the part 2 video. If you're not a premium member, look into it. It's incredibly affordable. I put out high quality lessons like this every week. I've been doing it for almost 10 years now. And so there's just this huge back catalog of lesson material that you have access to. Let me back up and play through this one more time. I'll do it slowly, and then we'll see you in part 2. So here we go.